Part 3. The Revelation. The world had gone mad. As I stumbled out of the building, cross in hand, I was met with a scene of utter chaos. The sky had turned a sickly red, as if the very heavens were bleeding. In the distance, I could hear screams, the wail of sirens, and a deep, resonant sound like the blast of an unearthly trumpet. The chanting crowd had followed me out, their vacant eyes fixed on some point in the distance. They moved as one, a sea of humanity stripped of individuality, of soul. "Eleanor!" I called out, my voice lost in the cacophony. "Eleanor, where are you?" There was no answer, but I hadn't really expected one. Whatever that thing was, it had taken her somewhere beyond my reach. But I couldn't give up. I wouldn't. I began to walk, then run, pushing my way through the mindless crowd. The streets were a nightmare landscape of abandoned cars, shattered windows, and scenes of violence frozen in time. And everywhere, that terrible chanting,
"Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power, and riches, and wisdom, and strength, and honor, and glory, and blessing."
I don't know how long I ran, or how far. Time seemed to have lost all meaning. The cross in my hand grew heavier with each step, the splinters digging deeper into my flesh. But I couldn't let go. Somehow, I knew it was important, that I would need it before the end. Finally, exhausted and disoriented, I found myself in front of the old church on the edge of town. St. Michael's, ironically enough. Its doors stood open, a beacon of dubious sanctuary in a world gone mad. As I approached, the chanting behind me changed.
"And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour."
The crowd stopped moving. The sirens cut off. Even the unnatural trumpet fell silent. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then, from within the church, I heard a voice. Eleanor's voice.
Michael, help me!"
I didn't hesitate. I ran into the church, the cross held before me like a shield. The interior was dark, lit only by flickering candles that cast monstrous shadows on the walls. The pews were empty, the air thick with the scent of incense, and something else, something rotten. "Eleanor?" I called out. "Where are you?"
"Here,
came her reply, weak and pained.
by the altar."
I moved forward, my footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. As I approached the altar, I saw her. Eleanor was on her knees, her head bowed. But something was wrong. Her form seemed to flicker and shift, as if she wasn't fully there. "Eleanor," I said softly, reaching out to touch her shoulder. She looked up at me, and I recoiled in horror. Her face was a mask of agony, her eyes black voids like those of the shadowy figure.
"You shouldn't have come."
She said, her voice a mixture of her own and something older, darker.
"You can't stop it, Michael. No one can."
"Stop what?" I asked, even as part of me screamed to run to get as far away from this thing wearing Eleanor's face as possible. "What's happening?" She smiled, a terrible rictus grin that split her face unnaturally wide.
"The end, the beginning, the unmaking and remaking of all things."
As she spoke, the shadows around us began to move, to coalesce. The shadowy figure from before took shape, but now it was joined by others. 6 others, each as terrifying and wrong as the first.
"The 7 seals."
Eleanor's voice said, but it wasn't Eleanor anymore. It was the thing inside her, the thing that had been waiting all along.
"You've opened them all, Michael, with your doubt, your fear, your desperate need to understand."
The 7 figures began to circle us, their movements fluid and inhuman. And as they moved, I saw flashes of what they truly were. A crown, a sword, a set of scales, a skull, a scroll, wings of flame. This can't be real, I said, my voice barely a whisper. This can't be happening.
Oh, but it is.
Not Eleanor said.
You wanted to know, Michael. You wanted to see. And now you will. Now everyone will.
The figures stopped moving. As one, they raised their arms towards the ceiling. The church began to shake, dust and debris raining down from above. No, I said, gripping the cross tighter. No, I don't accept this. This isn't how it ends. Not Eleanor laughed, a sound like breaking glass.
Accept? Oh, you think you have a choice? You're just a witness, Michael. A scribe to record the last chapter.
But as she spoke, I felt something. A warmth spreading from the cross, up my arms and into my chest. And with it came a certainty, a knowledge that filled me with equal parts terror and awe. You're wrong, I said, my voice stronger now. I'm not just a witness. I'm a participant. I raised the cross high and it began to glow with an inner light. The shadowy figures recoiled, their forms wavering. By the power of the Lamb, I intoned, the words coming from somewhere beyond my conscious mind. I command you, be gone. There was a sound like 1,000 voices screaming in unison. The shadows writhed and twisted, fighting against some unseen force. Not Eleanor reached for me, her fingers elongating into claws.
You can't.
She hissed.
You don't have the power. You're nothing.
I am everything, I replied. And in that moment, I understood. I was Michael, yes, but I was also every Michael, every doubter who became a believer, every witness to the impossible. I am the one who sees, the one who records, the one who believes. I brought the cross down, slamming it into the floor of the church. There was a blinding flash of light, a sound like reality itself tearing apart. And then, silence. I opened my eyes slowly, afraid of what I might see. The church was empty, no shadows, no monstrous figures, just dust motes floating in shafts of early morning sunlight. Eleanor lay on the floor, unconscious but breathing. As I watched, her eyelids fluttered open.
Michael?
She said weakly.
What happened?
I helped her to her feet, my mind reeling as I tried to process everything that had occurred. It's over, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure what it was. We're safe now. As we stumbled out of the church, we were met with a world seemingly returned to normal. People went about their day, oblivious to the apocalypse that had been averted. The sky was a clear, bright blue. But I knew the truth. I had seen behind the veil, witnessed the forces that shaped our reality. And I knew that this peace, this normalcy, was fragile. That the seals could break again.
What do we do now?
Eleanor asked as we stood on the church steps, squinting in the sunlight. I looked down at the cross in my hand, now just a simple piece of wood. But I could still feel its power, dormant but present. We watch, I said, and we pray. Because now we know, it's not just words. It's a duty, a sacred trust. Eleanor nodded, a look of understanding passing between us. We had been changed by our experience, marked in ways that would never fully fade. As we walked away from the church, I heard it one last time. A whisper, not of warning now, but of promise.
Well done, good and faithful servant.
The apocalypse had been averted for now. But I knew that somewhere, in the shadows between worlds, the Watchers were still there, waiting, and I would be ready. For I had become the Watcher of the Watchers, the guardian of the seals, and my vigil was just beginning.